Welcome to the Wife Stories YouTube channel. New video every day, and don't forget to subscribe. Here we go.
I smashed my phone on the pavement. Glass shards flew, bright under the streetlight, and I watched the screen flicker off. One last painful blink. I'd planned to look through her texts again, to confirm I hadn't misread the name. The same name on the gift box she brought home that afternoon. But my hand clenched, and I couldn't stop myself. I needed silence, needed to cut away the flood of her words on that tiny display. That's how it began. Me standing in our driveway, under a half-dead tree, phone in pieces at my feet. My heart pounded too loud. My breath tasted bitter. I wanted to not know anymore. I thought destroying the device might help. It was nearly midnight. The house was dark except for the porch light Sarah always insisted we leave on. In case I come home late, she used to say. I'd come to hate that glow over the last months, because every time she returned, hair just a little too perfect, the faintest whiff of unfamiliar cologne on her clothes, I'd feel my throat tighten. But that night, the light felt harsher than ever. I stood there for a while. When the cold started to creep through my jacket, I picked up the biggest chunk of phone casing, tossed it in the trash can next to the garage. I was done reading about them. I'd seen enough. A man's name, the kind of flirty exchanges that make you feel stupid for ever trusting someone. Worst of all was the photo of her leaning in close to him at some bar. Her lips parted in a half-smile I hadn't seen in a long time. She used to look at me that way. I stepped inside and locked the door behind me. Our living room looked as it always did, tidy, everything in its place. The coffee table, the couch with the cushions arranged just so. The only difference was the box she'd left on the kitchen counter. Still unwrapped. A man's name on the shipping label. Ethan Nichols. She didn't even bother hiding it, just said, "Oh, it's a gift I'm storing for a friend." She'd worn that casual grin that rarely reached her eyes nowadays. Maybe some men would tear open that box right away. But I didn't. I just stood there, glaring at it. My father taught me to be patient. Well, not taught, exactly. He left us when I was 12. But from him, I learned to keep quiet, because my mother was always telling lies. Everything's fine, she'd say, even when it wasn't. I'd see her slip out of the house, meet someone else for coffee or something more. And I, a dumb kid, just observed in silence, my small fists clenched in my pockets. I learned the art of pretending not to see, but inside I was screaming. That skill carried over into adulthood, it seems. So I watched that box the way I used to watch my mother slip out. You wait, you gather proof, then you act. Except I wasn't sure how to act. Scream at Sarah, demand an explanation, dig deeper into her phone for more evidence. I decided to wait, but that night, my patience ran out. My phone was gone. No more texts to scroll through, no illusions of calm detective work. I felt an urgency in my gut, a knot of anger and sorrow that threatened to choke me. I turned off the lights and slumped onto the couch. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. I tried to close my eyes, but every time I did, I pictured her leaning toward him, her lips parted in an unguarded laugh. I pictured them together. My imagination filled in the worst details, the shift of her hips, the hushed confessions in a dim room. In that moment, my mind felt like a torture chamber, dark corners, hidden images, things I never wanted to see. Hours later, I must have dozed off, because I woke to the clang of keys in the door. She was back. I listened from the couch, pretending to sleep, but my heart hammered so loud I half expected her to hear. I caught the faint smell of her perfume drifting through the dark. She stopped in the hallway. "Michael?" she called softly. I didn't move. She came closer, leaned over me. I felt her breath. For a split second, I thought she might stroke my hair, maybe kiss my forehead the way she used to. But then she exhaled sharply and turned away, padding off to the bedroom. I stayed there, eyes shut tight. A single question pounded in my head. Why do I still want her to care? Eventually, I got up and locked myself in the bathroom. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, noticing new lines on my face. I looked older than 36. My eyes were raw, rimmed in red. My father's face was there, too, in the shape of my jaw or the tension in my brows. I thought, are we men just cursed to repeat these mistakes? I splashed water on my face, but it didn't wash away the bitterness. Asterisk, 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 2 days passed, and the tension in the house grew so thick it was hard to breathe. Sarah acted normal on the surface. Good morning. I'm off to work. Don't forget to pick up milk. But her eyes darted around me, her phone always guarded. At dinner, we talked in monotone half-sentences. She had a new routine of late client meetings, marketing deadlines, shopping with girlfriends, and each time she came back, the same smell of someone else's cologne hung around her. Maybe it was his aftershave. Maybe it was just the environment. I tried not to think about it, but the thoughts came, uninvited. That afternoon, I waited for her in the driveway, arms crossed. The moment her car pulled up, I noticed the mileage on the dashboard. It had jumped. She said she was just at the mall, which was a 20-minute drive away. But the odometer told a longer story. I said nothing. I just watched her gather her bags, carefully set them in the trunk. She looked at me, forced a smile, and my stomach lurched. I could see the lie. My mother's face flashed in my mind. Her phony smile, the rehearsed lines, and I felt that old helpless rage. Later that evening, she hopped into the shower. I found myself creeping to the bathroom door, listening to the water run. A wave of self-loathing washed over me. Who had I become, spying on my wife like a stranger? But I couldn't stop. I needed answers. So I opened her purse. I saw a small gift box inside, something from a men's brand, the tag half torn. The name Ethan flickered across my mind again. I pressed my fingertips to my temples, fighting a headache that threatened to split my skull. She had the nerve to bring it home again. Maybe it was for him, maybe from him. On the bed, her phone buzzed. A single message flashed on the screen. No lock code. She'd been sloppy lately, or maybe she just stopped caring if I saw. I read the preview. Tomorrow night works. I'll wait at the usual place. My blood felt like it was simmering. The shower cut off. I slipped the phone back, heart drumming an erratic beat. When she emerged in a towel, I forced myself to look away, but I couldn't erase the memory of that text. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The next day, I left work early. I told my boss I wasn't feeling well, and it wasn't a lie. Anxiety was chewing my insides. I wanted to catch her in the act, or at least see them together. So I drove to the address I'd gleaned from her phone logs, some bar in a neighboring district. Parked down the block, I waited. Hours passed. I felt the weight of it in my spine, the tension in my shoulders. My stomach growled, but I ignored it, sipping stale coffee from a thermos. Finally, near dusk, I saw her car. She parked, stepped out wearing a blouse I'd never seen before. Fitted, low-cut, the kind that made her look effortlessly captivating. Then he appeared from the other side. Tall, dark hair pulled back, confident gait. He reached out, placed a hand at the small of her back. That gesture, so intimate, hit me like a punch to the gut. She smiled at him, a real smile, the kind that lit up her face in a way I almost didn't recognize. Together, they strolled into the bar, close enough that their shoulders touched. I could have confronted them right then, but something froze me in place. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. The old lesson from childhood, keep quiet until you can't. I waited, letting my eyes burn holes into their retreating figures. A heavy, sick feeling coiled in my chest. Minutes later, I got out of the car, walked toward the bar's window. Dim lights inside, a handful of patrons. I picked a corner outside where I could see them through the glass. They sat in a booth. Sarah leaned forward, her hand on his wrist. They laughed about something I couldn't hear. Their heads came close. There was a moment when she brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead. My gut twisted. I forced myself not to move. I needed to see just how far she'd go. My mouth felt like sandpaper. Then I saw their expressions shift. Desire. Hunger. He scooted closer, whispered something in her ear, and she tilted her head back, parted her lips slightly. My stomach churned with equal parts disgust and heartbreak. She placed her hand on his thigh. My mind flashed on images I didn't want to see but couldn't escape. Memories of times when she used to touch me like that, in the early days when we were so sure of each other. They got up to leave, heading toward the bar's back exit. I should have turned away, should have left. But I followed, staying in the shadows. In the dark alley behind the building, they kissed. Once, twice, then deeper. She let out a soft sound that sliced through me like a razor. My arms shook with adrenaline. I couldn't help imagining them pressed together in some cheap motel room, or even in the back of his car, clothes askew, her breathy whispers in his ear. Every cell in my body screamed. I backed away before they could notice me. A part of me wanted to jump out, to shout, to break that little scene. But I didn't. Instead, I took a shaky step back, then another, until I was gone. I spent the night in a nearby diner. The place was almost empty, just me, and some old man sipping coffee at the counter. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I tried to eat a sandwich, but everything tasted like ash. I felt hollow, like some important piece of me had been carved out. Maybe it was my dignity. Maybe it was the last bit of my old illusions about my marriage. Around midnight, I drove home, turned off the engine, and sat in the driveway, heart pounding. Sarah's car was there, but a part of me half expected to see it missing. I wondered if she'd make an excuse about working late again. Would I corner her this time? The exhaustion weighed down on me like a lead blanket. In the end, I just walked in. She wasn't in the living room. I found her in bed, sleeping, or pretending to. The covers rustled as she turned away from me. A single lamp lit the room in gold, showing me the silhouette of her body. Once, that shape brought me so much comfort. Now, I felt only betrayal. I stood there, waiting for some spark of anger to give me the courage to wake her up and demand answers. Instead, I quietly undressed and slipped into the other side of the bed, turned off the lamp. My hands were shaking. I pressed them to the mattress, trying to steady myself. I didn't sleep. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The morning sun slid through the blinds, painting stripes on the wall. I drifted off at some point, only to wake with a pounding headache. Sarah was already up and moving around. I heard the sound of coffee being made, the beep of the machine. I forced myself out of bed, my spine stiff from a night of tension. Each step to the kitchen felt heavier. She stood by the counter in a robe, stirring cream into her mug. Her eyes darted to me. For a second, I thought she would say something about coming home late. Instead, she offered a polite, "Good morning," like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't been kissing another man just hours ago. I tried to respond, but my mouth felt glued shut. So we stood there in silence, the humming of the fridge filling the room. She sipped her coffee. I grabbed a glass of water, gulped it down. Finally, I gathered what little composure I had left. "I saw you," I said. My voice came out low, almost a whisper. She didn't move. "What do you mean?" "Don't. Please." I closed my eyes. "I know about Ethan. The bar. The way you looked at him. I was there." She exhaled slowly, setting down her mug. "Michael." Her tone was cautious, like she was picking her words from a script. "It's not." I cut her off. "It is what I think. Don't lie." She stood there, pale, her eyes flickering with something I couldn't read. Fear, maybe, or annoyance that I'd found out. I felt the old anger boiling up again. The same helpless fury I used to feel as a child when I caught my mother sneaking around. But this time, I wasn't just a kid. I was a grown man, and I could decide how this would end. Sarah parted her lips, searching for a response. Then, unbelievably, she said, "It's not what you think, okay? Ethan's a client. We had a few drinks, that's all." The blatant lie hung in the air like a bad smell. A client you kiss in alleyways. My voice shook. A client who sends you personal gifts to our house, who texts you at midnight. She flinched. "Michael, please, let's talk about this calmly. You're upset, and I understand. But it's complicated. He needed some advice. It got out of hand, that's all." I laughed, the sound coming out sharp. Advice. Right. The memory of seeing her pressed against him was too vivid. A wave of nausea rolled through me. I turned away, took a deep breath. "We're done talking. For now." I left the kitchen. I needed air, space, something. Her voice called after me, but I didn't stop. I felt her words bouncing off my back. I pulled on my jacket and stepped outside. The sky was a clear, merciless blue. I ended up pacing around our small backyard, half barren, with patches of grass that never seemed to grow. The neighbor's dog barked behind the fence. Everything felt surreal, like I was living someone else's nightmare. Asterisk, 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 that day at work, I made mistakes in my spreadsheets, typed the wrong codes. My boss noticed, but didn't press. He knew me as a reliable guy, not prone to meltdown. My colleagues gave me a wide berth, probably seeing something on my face that told them now wasn't the time. I slogged through the hours. All I could think about was her eyes, that look she gave Ethan, how he had his hands on her. I felt mechanical. Moved from one task to the next with an almost robotic focus, just to block out the image. At lunch, I skipped the cafeteria and drank coffee in my car, alone. My phone was broken, so I had no messages, no music. I stared at the empty seat beside me where Sarah used to ride, back when we only had one car and we'd share rides. A piece of me wanted to cry, but tears wouldn't come. I was stuck in that strange emotional limbo. Half rage, half numbness. Somewhere around 3 in the afternoon, I decided, no more illusions. If she didn't have the decency to stop lying, I'd take drastic measures. I thought about my mother's old manipulations, how she'd cling to illusions until everything fell apart. Dad left, and she'd say, "It's just a break. He'll come back." He never did. I refused to become that sort of pathetic figure. This time, I would end the lie on my terms. I went back inside, cleared my desk, left early, drove home faster than usual, ignoring the speed limit. My heart hammered all the way. In the garage, I found Sarah's car. I'd always done the maintenance, changed the oil, cared for it like it was part of the family. But now, I opened the glove compartment, rummaged through her receipts, her phone chargers, random lip balms. Everything about it suddenly felt cheap, like a stage prop for her secret escapades. The anger in my chest grew. That's when a wild idea sparked. Craigslist. I could sell this damn car. Spiteful, yes, but also liberating. I decided on the spot. I would list it dirt cheap, get rid of it, and watch her reaction as she realized I'd taken something she used to carry out her lies. My hands trembled with adrenaline. I wrote down the VN, took a few quick photos with an old phone I found in a drawer, an outdated model, but functional enough to post an ad. My mother's face flashed in my mind again, but this time I felt in control. This was my life, my move. I posted the listing. Toyota Camry, good condition, quick sale, $2,000 or best offer, a fraction of its real worth. I didn't care. I just wanted it gone. Within an hour, calls and messages poured in. I arranged a viewing with the first guy who responded. He showed up by late afternoon, cash in hand. Barely asked questions, just kicked the tires. Took a look under the hood. We settled on a price. I signed the title over, ignoring the swirl of disbelief in my gut. Part of me thought, "You're insane. You're blowing up your marriage." But my rage overshadowed any caution. The buyer drove away, and I stood in the driveway, listening to the engine fade into the distance. A strange calm settled over me. I wiped my hands on a rag, like scrubbing away her secrets. Then I realized Sarah would be home soon. I half expected to feel triumph, but all I felt was hollow anticipation. The hour passed slowly, the sky tinged with pink and orange as the sun set. Inside the house, I waited by the window, arms folded, adrenaline wearing off, replaced by a dull ache in my ribs. Her friend dropped her off, probably shopping with girlfriends again. She stepped out of the passenger side, plastic bags in hand, and froze when she saw the empty driveway. She glanced around, confusion etched on her face. I didn't go outside. I just stood behind the curtain, watching. She came in, eyes wide. "Michael," she called, her voice echoing. "Where's my car?" I stepped into the hallway. My tone was flat, emotionless. "I sold it." Her mouth fell open. "What? You? Tell me this is a joke." I shrugged. "Check Craigslist. It's gone." She stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Why? How could you?" "That car is mine, Michael. You have no right." "It's in my name," I said quietly. "I paid for it. And if you're using it for your client meetings with Ethan, I don't see a reason to keep it around." Her cheeks flushed. She dropped her shopping bags on the floor, stepped forward, and for a second I thought she might hit me. "This is insane," she whispered. "You're insane." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'm just done letting you use me." Her eyes glistened with anger. "You can't just. You." She snatched the house keys from the table, flung them at the wall. They clattered to the floor. "Give me his number. I'll get it back." I shook my head, a cold smile curling my lips. I tore up the paper. "Don't know if he'll respond. I sold it cheap. So, good luck." She looked at me like I'd become a stranger. And maybe I had. The tension in the room crackled. She let out a short, furious breath, stormed past me. I heard her rummaging in the garage, presumably searching for any trace of the buyer's contact. When she came back, she was trembling, eyes alight with panic. "All my things were in there," she hissed. "My clothes, my makeup, my mirror." "I took your personal items out," I said calmly. "They're on the porch. You can grab them anytime." I thought about the small vanity mirror she always used to check her hair before meeting him, the scent of her perfume that clung to it. I didn't want it under our roof anymore. She stopped outside, saw the neat pile of her stuff in a box on the doorstep. I watched from behind, arms crossed, feeling nothing but a strange emptiness. My mind flickered to the times we used to share. Simple dinners, Sunday walks, laughter in bed. Now we were two enemies standing on the brink of a war. When she realized there was nothing else to salvage, she came back in, face red with fury. "I'm leaving," she spat. "I'll stay at a friend's place. Don't you dare touch my clothes." I shrugged. "Sure. Whatever you say." She grabbed a few things from the bedroom in a frenzy. Then she paused at the door, tears on her lashes. "You're shutting me out, Michael. This is all you. You won't even try to talk. You just snapped." I exhaled. "You had months to talk," I said softly, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. "You chose not to. You said I was paranoid. You said I was imagining things. You lied to my face, Sarah." She shook her head, lips parting in a desperate attempt to say something, but no words came. Finally, she turned and left. The door slammed behind her. A wave of silence crashed over the house, almost deafening. My heart pounded, but I didn't follow. Instead, I walked to the window and watched her drive off with her friend, leaving me there in the quiet. I sank onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. Part of me wanted to chase after her, to force a real conversation, maybe salvage whatever remained. Another part told me it was already too late, that we'd passed the point of no return. My mother's voice echoed in my memory, how she tried to spin every betrayal into something smaller. But I refused to sugarcoat it. This was raw betrayal, and I'd responded with a raw act of revenge. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The next hours were a haze. I paced from room to room, half tempted to throw out anything that reminded me of her. But that seemed pointless. The house smelled like her perfume, like memories. I wandered into the bathroom, saw her hair products, her pink toothbrush, felt a sudden urge to fling them into the trash. But I resisted. My chest was tight. This was my house, too. Why should I be the one picking up the pieces? Eventually, exhaustion took over. I stumbled into our bedroom, lay on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. My mind replayed everything. The first hints of her distancing, the late-night text messages, the final confrontation. I shut my eyes, but images kept bombarding me. Sarah's lips on Ethan's, her eyes fluttering closed, the softness of her moan. In the quiet, I let out a sound that was somewhere between a sob and a growl. I wished I could forget, but forgetting felt impossible. I drifted in and out of sleep, tortured by half-formed nightmares. Sometime around midnight, I was startled awake by a loud banging on the front door. My pulse skyrocketed. I imagined Sarah coming back with Ethan, maybe demanding an apology or a fight. Cautiously, I crept to the door and peered through the peephole. To my surprise, it was just her, alone. She looked disheveled, hair pulled back in a messy bun, eyes puffy with tears or anger. I opened the door, but said nothing. "You had no right," she said again, voice trembling. I stared at her, waiting for more. She swallowed, pressing her lips together. "I want you to take it back. Call the buyer, reverse the sale, pay him extra if you have to." A tear escaped her eye, and she angrily brushed it away. That car was important to me. I sighed. "Sarah, you keep saying that, but you don't want to talk about how you used it to meet him. You think I'm just going to roll over now? Not after what I saw." She sucked in a breath. "He's just a distraction," she said quietly, avoiding my eyes. Things between us got stale. I felt suffocated. I needed to feel alive. "That's your excuse." My voice shook, part fury, part heartbreak. "I worked my ass off to keep this house, to make sure we had what we needed. You never said anything about feeling suffocated. You just slipped away." She looked down, blinking rapidly. Then she forced her gaze up, tried to hold my stare. "I didn't want to hurt you. It was never meant to be. Serious." My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. "You hurt me more than you can imagine, Sarah." The old wound from childhood, from watching my mother, bled open. I fought back tears of rage. "And you keep lying about it. That's the worst part." She swallowed. "I was afraid of losing what little we had left if I told you the truth. I was stupid. But you went nuclear, selling my car. That's not how a normal person handles things." "Maybe not," I admitted, my voice raw. "But I'm not in the mood to be normal right now." The memory of her body against Ethan's in the alley, the hungry look on her face, replayed in my mind. I felt the anger surge again. "This conversation is over." She wiped her cheek, stepped back. "I'll come get the rest of my stuff tomorrow," she said, voice shaking. "And for the record, I'm done pretending too." She turned and hurried to the car waiting at the curb. Her friends, I guessed. I watched her climb in, her silhouette framed in the headlights. Then they drove off, leaving me in the darkness. I shut the door, my body trembling with adrenaline. So that was it. She'd effectively walked out of our life together. I felt something inside me crack, a final snap of the bond we once shared. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk days turned into a blur of routine. I went to work, came home, tried not to think about the emptiness of the house. Sarah texted me a few times, from a new phone number, or maybe her old one. I couldn't tell because my phone was gone. I only saw her messages when I used the outdated phone for email. She asked for more of her belongings, demanded the contact of the buyer. asked if I'd help with her share of rent at the place she'd moved into temporarily. I ignored most of it. Or I'd give curt replies. Everything is in boxes on the porch. Take it if you want. Part of me felt a pang of guilt for being so cold, but the deeper part felt justified. She chose this path. She made her bed. Let her lie in it with Ethan. Meanwhile, I heard rumors through mutual acquaintances. She was telling everyone she'd left on her own terms, that our marriage had been dead for years, that I was distant and uncommunicative. Her friends nodded in sympathy, or so I heard. One of them, apparently, asked about the gifts from Ethan. Was that just a friend thing? Or something more? People were putting the pieces together. Sarah dodged those questions. She was good at painting the story in her favor. I give her that. But I knew the truth. And that kept me oddly steady in a twisted way. A week passed before I realized I hadn't truly confronted my own pain. I'd been functioning on anger and shock. Then came the night I found her perfume-laced mirror in a bathroom drawer, something I'd missed before. The smell brought back the memory of her leaning over me in bed, smiling at me with that same sweet sincerity she'd later offer to Ethan. I felt like screaming, but no sound came. I just sank to the floor and sat there until the ache dulled. That's when I remembered the box. The one with the shipping label that started all this. I pulled it out from the closet where I'd shoved it days ago. Unopened. The name Ethan Nichols scrawled on top, mocking me. I stared at it, debating if I should tear it open, see what gift he'd sent her. But some part of me said, enough. This is just another piece of poison. Knowing more details won't change anything. So I put it down, took a deep breath, and walked away. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk word spread quickly among our friends and neighbors. Sarah had moved out. I was taking a break. Some folks tried to get me to open up. Others avoided me altogether, maybe sensing the tension. My mother even called once. She'd gotten word from someone, though I never told her. She tried to say something sympathetic, but the hypocrisy dripped from her words. She'd been an expert in betrayal herself. I cut the conversation short. Work became my refuge, ironically enough. I spent longer hours at the office, typed up reports, balanced budgets, anything to escape my thoughts. Even started volunteering for weekend shifts. My boss asked if everything was all right. I nodded. He didn't push. One evening, I came home to find a note on the front door. Sarah's handwriting. We need to talk about dividing our assets. I can't live like this. It included a phone number. A quick flash of grief shot through me. Assets, that's what we'd become. Items to split and file away. I crumpled the paper in my fist, but a wave of calm came over me. This was inevitable. Our marriage was done, and she wanted to make it official. I walked inside, let the note drop to the floor, and sank into the armchair in the living room. The memories came in flickers. The day we painted these walls together. The day she danced around the room with me after we got the mortgage approval. Now the walls felt colorless, the air stale. I remember my father once saying something about betrayal. It's not just about losing someone's loyalty. It's about losing the version of yourself you thought you were in their eyes. He was speaking about my mother at the time, but I never forgot. Sitting there, alone, I realized how profoundly true that was. I wasn't the same man anymore. Part of me was lost. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. A few more days slipped by. Then I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. Michael, it's Ethan. We need to talk. Don't ignore this. My blood ran cold. So he had my number. Sarah must have given it to him, or maybe he found it in her phone. My first instinct was to throw the phone out the window. But after a long moment, I tapped out a reply. There's nothing to talk about. He responded almost immediately. Look, I don't want bad blood. Sarah and I. This wasn't planned. I'm sorry. But there are things you need to know. The nerve of him, texting me after destroying my marriage. My fists clenched. But a small, hateful curiosity stirred. Maybe he'd reveal some detail that would give me closure. Maybe he just wanted to gloat. I had to see. Fine, I typed. Tomorrow, the old diner on Maple at 8 p.m. No response for a minute. Then, I'll be there. So that's how I found myself walking into a dingy diner the next night, heart pounding. I scanned the booths, saw him at a corner table. He looked exactly as I'd remembered from that alley. Tall, dark hair, a confident set to his shoulders. But he wasn't as smug as I'd imagined. In fact, he seemed tense, uneasy. I slid into the seat across from him, not offering a handshake. The waitress approached, but I waved her off. Ethan cleared his throat. "I appreciate you coming," he said, voice low. I stared, saying nothing. His eyes flicked away before returning to mine. He sighed. "Okay, I guess I'll start. I'm sorry. That's not enough, I know, but I have to say it." I felt a flicker of contempt. "Why do you ask me here?" I said curtly. He tapped his fingers on the table, like he did it without thinking. "Sarah left me too," he said finally. "She said it was over a few days ago. I didn't even know she moved out of your place until later. She won't answer my calls now. She blocked me." He laughed bitterly. "I realize you have no reason to care, but I think she's just done with both of us." A strange wave of numb satisfaction washed over me. Part of me wanted to laugh, to throw a "serves you right" in his face. But I stayed quiet. He continued, "I'm not looking for pity. Something about her felt off from the start. But I let myself believe it was real. I didn't mean to break your marriage." His gaze flicked to the tabletop. "Ashamed. She said things about you. That you didn't love her anymore, that you were never around. Stuff I shouldn't have believed. But I did." I swallowed hard, feeling a mixture of rage and grudging clarity. "Maybe I wasn't around," I muttered. "But that's no excuse. You knew she was married." He nodded. "I won't argue. I was wrong." Then he looked up, meeting my eyes. "But Sarah, she uses people, Michael. From the start, she told me about her frustrations, her dreams, how she felt trapped. I fell for her words. But the minute things got complicated, she was gone. I just wanted you to know that if you're blaming yourself entirely, you shouldn't. She's complicated." Silence hung between us. My mind went to her repeated line. "It's not what you think." Could it be that even Ethan only got a fraction of the truth? I felt sorry for him, in a weird way, because he seemed genuinely shaken. But mostly I felt drained. I'd come here expecting a confrontation, maybe a fight, but instead I got a confession from a man who'd lost just as I had. "You came to tell me that she's no good?" I asked, voice hollow. "I didn't need you to figure that out." He exhaled. "No, I came because I messed up. And if there's anything I can do to fix it, even a little, I wanted to let you know." He pulled out an envelope, slid it across the table. "She told me you sold her car. She freaked out about it, said you had no right. I know it's not my place, but here's some cash. For the difference, or do what you want with it." I stared at the envelope. A wave of anger rose up in me. "I don't need your charity," I growled. He nodded hastily, withdrawing his hand. "Keep it or burn it," he said quietly. "I just wanted to offer something. I know you lost more than money here." I felt my pulse hammering. For a second, I pictured flipping the table, grabbing him by the collar. But the fight drained out of me as quickly as it came. I realized he was right. I'd lost more than a car, more than a wife. I'd lost the life I thought we had. Sarah had done this, not just to me, but also to him, and eventually even to herself. I stood up, left the envelope on the table. "You can keep your guilt money. I'm done." He swallowed, eyes dark with regret. I turned and walked out, my limbs stiff. The cold night air slapped me in the face. I inhaled deeply, hands trembling, and got in my truck. For a moment, I just sat behind the wheel, letting the adrenaline settle. In some twisted sense, I felt closure. Sarah had spun her illusions with him too. She was consistent, at least. A week later, she showed up at the house again, this time looking calm, dressed neatly. She requested we talk about the division of property. I'd already set aside her belongings, given her access to half the joint account. Legally, we were heading toward divorce. She had a short list of demands, mostly small items, a few pieces of furniture we'd bought together. I listened silently, nodded, agreed to sign. Then she looked at me, her eyes uncertain. "Michael," she said softly, "I want you to know, none of this was about destroying you. I was just unhappy. I never meant for it to go this far." My mind flashed on that alley scene. "No," I said, "you didn't mean to get caught. That's all." She closed her eyes, her breath shuddering. "Maybe you're right." I pursed my lips. "Are you moving in with Ethan? Or did that crash and burn already?" She flinched. I ended it. It wasn't sustainable. I'm taking some time for myself." I nodded. "Good luck with that." We stared at each other in silence. Once that same space had held love, or at least something close to it. Now it held only ghosts and regrets. Finally, she picked up her purse, and I followed her to the door. I didn't offer to help carry anything. She glanced over her shoulder, a flicker of sorrow in her gaze, and then she was gone. I locked the door, exhaled slowly. No tears came. I felt hollowed out, yes, but also strangely lighter, as though a great burden had shifted. I found myself walking to the garage, rummaging in an old box of tools, searching for something but not sure what. My eyes landed on a rag I used to clean the steering wheel of her car that day, back when I was naive enough to think wiping away the evidence would remove the betrayal. I picked it up, stared at the dark smudge of dried polish. Then I dropped it in the trash. All of it was done. Word got around that Sarah told people she left on her own terms, that she decided she couldn't handle my emotional shutdown. Some friends believed her. Others gave me sympathetic looks. A few asked, "Are you okay?" I was never sure how to answer. Okay, not really. But I was alive, functioning, moving forward. One evening, a neighbor's wife, someone Sarah used to be close with, stopped by to return a mail package that had been delivered to them by mistake. She hesitated on the porch, looked at me with genuine concern. She never told us the whole story. "I guess you have yours." I nodded. "We all do." She offered a sad little smile, then left me there with the mail in hand. I realized I didn't want to keep explaining. I wanted it to rest. After a few more weeks, the quiet grew comfortable. I learned to wake up alone, make my own coffee, run my errands, go to bed without waiting for her to come home. The house felt bigger. The bed felt too spacious at first, but eventually I got used to it. Sometimes I'd look at the indentation on the pillow where her head used to rest, and a flicker of pain would surface. But it was duller now. I tried to meet new people, or at least do something with my time besides work. I started fixing up old furniture, hammered nails into rotting wood in the garage. Something about creating order out of chaos soothed me. I never quite forgot the betrayal, but I learned to carry it differently. A few months later, I was in the living room, flipping through channels, not really watching anything, when I found myself staring at the empty corner where her vanity used to stand. I remembered how she would apply her makeup there, turn to me, ask if she looked all right. A wave of conflicting emotions rushed over me: nostalgia, anger, sorrow. Then I thought about how I sold her car on a whim of rage, how she screamed at me, told me I was a monster, and how she walked out claiming her own strength. A faint memory surfaced. Me as a child, watching my mother leave the house, lying about where she was going. I felt powerless then. Now, as a grown man, I realized that sometimes power isn't about controlling others. It's about deciding what you can let go of. I let go of her damn car, let go of the illusions she forced upon me. I never heard much from Ethan again, except a single text a few weeks after our meeting. I moved away. I'm sorry for everything. I deleted it, exhaled, felt a release of tension. Sarah, as far as I knew, was living in a small rental somewhere across town, forging the new life. Without me, without him. Maybe she'd find another man to fill her emptiness. That was her affair, not mine. Finally, on a slow Sunday afternoon, I gathered the rest of her leftover items, small trinkets, a few clothes, a stack of old photos she once forgot. I placed them in a box, sealed it up, put it by the door in case she wanted to retrieve it eventually. Then I sat down on the couch, stared at my hands. They weren't trembling. That realization struck me. My hands were steady, calm. The anger that once made them shake had faded to a memory. I leaned back, let out a long breath, and closed my eyes. I thought about how she used to say, "It's not what you think," and how I used to believe her just to keep the peace. No more. The silence in the house felt cleansing, like a long exhale after being underwater too long. I let my shoulders relax. I reached for a pen and an old notepad, started scribbling down a list of everything I needed to do. File for the final divorce papers, maybe repaint the living room, fix the squeaky garage door. Simple tasks, but they felt like steps forward. A faint sense of relief stirred in my chest. This was my life now, a life where the illusions were gone, replaced by a raw, even painful honesty. And in that honesty, I found a strange sense of freedom. Eventually, I stood up, walked outside to the front porch. The day was cool, the sun low. A breeze rustled the bushes. I remembered the day she left, how she glared at me through the window, tears in her eyes. The memory no longer stung like an open wound. It was more like a scar, tender if touched, but healed over. I sat there, hands resting on my knees, and inhaled the crisp evening air. For the first time in a long while, I felt the quiet not as a burden, but as a comfort. My stomach unclenched, my jaw loosened. Whatever future lay ahead, it was mine to shape. My mother's pattern wouldn't haunt me forever. I'd broken it, faced betrayal head-on, and walked away. Part of me still ached, but the rest felt clean. And so I remained on that porch, letting the last rays of daylight warm my face, hand steady, heart beating in a calmer rhythm. Eventually, I went inside, closed the door. In the silence of that moment, I allowed myself a small, resolute smile. I was free.